everyone's input. We're given 2 minutes, is it? 2 minutes. And I know myself and the board looks forward to hearing what everyone has to say.
No, they can't hear you. That's what you're afraid of too. So, I'm going to turn to Lucinda, where is she? Do we need to do something different with the speakers? That's what we've got? That's better?
That's better.
So Mike said thank you for being here. That's what he said. Just so you know. And what he also said is that we really can't do this without you, if you didn't hear that part. So we're really glad that you're here. So thank you, Mr. Burns, Mr. Henderson, and I thank Mrs. Henry and Mrs. Krause also for being here. This is one of those, can I move this up or is this going to cause a problem? Because I can't keep moving forward. Mr. Henderson was my first. That's all right, he can get twice. This turned out to be one of the busiest evenings around. There's something going on everywhere in the district. So we apologize for missing some key people, from administrators to board members, but we're really trying to spread out and be in as many different places as we can tonight. So creating a budget this year is really a challenge, and I'm going to just lay out for you in broad terms why, to me, it's such a challenge. And I'm really, really grateful for the people that I'm working with, including the board and Tom and the administrators, and also the teachers and the rest of the staff, because we certainly couldn't do it alone. Years ago, a superintendent truly could have made a budget alone, and that can't happen anymore. At the same time that we're creating this budget, we have to be looking out into the future. It's difficult because so many of us are brand new and we're really trying to catch up, but looking out 2 years, 3 years, 4, even 10, because it's important for us to take a look at that vision that we have for Eden and say, well, where do we want to be and what should it look like? So I'm going to go to the next slide. And the next one after that. So one of the things that you're going to hear us talk about is community outreach, because we are planning, board members, Tom Murphy, the Director of Finance, and myself, to go out to as many groups as we possibly can and say, this is our approved budget when we have one in April. And we know that you can't all come to us on one night, so we'll come to you. Whether that's a boosters meeting, whether it's up in East Eden, whether it's at the library, wherever that might be, we are ready and prepared to go. And I already warned my husband that he won't see me, but he's used to that, I suspect. The next slide. We need a vision, and we need to understand what that vision looks like to you. And that's why we have these forums. That's why we have a budget advisory team, so that we understand from our own little world of working here, some of us live here, some of us live close by, some don't, of what's important to you. Some of you already know that your grandchildren would be going to school here. We need to understand what that looks like to you. But at the same time, there's a couple of things that we need to know. Our enrollment is absolutely declining. Our state aid is an amazing issue. We have to be extremely creative in what we're thinking about with schools because we can't function the way we used to. We are absolutely getting ready for another capital project, in some cases just to take a look at what's not working, but in some cases for something new. It could be a program for kids. And then in addition to that too is buses. We maintain our own buses. We are committed to maintaining our own buses and our bus drivers for the best of the community, but our buses are all getting old and we need to take a look at that as well. But again, that last bullet, that new and innovative program, if you don't change and you don't grow, you're going to get what you always had. We can't just stay stagnant. So in these challenging times of a budget, we have to also be thinking, well, what do we need to give our kids? What's the best program for us to be looking at, whether it's through technology, which is brand new, or not? The gap elimination adjustment, you're going to hear me cringe and scratch my neck, which is what I do when I get really upset, has cost us over $7 million in the last 6 years. Eden alone, over $7 million. There's a rally that's coming up tomorrow that most of the PTA and the teachers are going to up in the North Towns. There's a rally March 10th down in Ellicottville that most of the school board members and district administrators are going to. But the GEA, and I'll leave it to Tom to talk about in just a little bit more depth than that, was the state legislature's way of balancing the state budget. It had nothing to do with schools, so to speak. So that came out in 2009, I think, 2009. It was meant to be 3 years at the most, so most districts said, okay, we can hunker down for 3 years, we can use our reserves, we can take a look at some of our savings or so for 3 years. But we're now into year 6. So this is $7,214,628 of a loss to Eden alone since 2009. This is art, music, athletics, technology, capital projects, the lawnmower, the safety. It's all these things that are on the fringe of instruction, but are absolutely necessary after 6 years. For this current year, I'll take the next slide, it's worth $1,133,000 to Eden. So when the governor says, we had a I think it was a $2.1 billion surplus to the state of New York, and we're giving money back to the schools, he's giving us about $200,000. About that, out of 1.3 million. So we're already operating at a deficit of about 900,000?
No,
That is the
this
number.
is with the give back.
Oh, that's with the give back. Okay, so this is when I get nervous and start scratching my head. So this is already with the 200,000. We're already coming up $1.1 million shy just this year alone, and this continues to add on and add on. And so why it becomes such a major challenge for us is because Lucinda, for technology, will say, well, you know what, we can do without this for one more year. Dave Martin in Building and Grounds can say, well, we don't really need to look at that refurbishing those floors for one more year, or we can work on that electrical system one more year. And we just keep doing this year after year after year, but we're going into year 7. And so at some point, all the holes in the dam just aren't going to work anymore. So I'm going to turn it over to you because I think you can lighten the mood a moment, right?
Oh, sure.
Oh,
Well,
sure.
this will be like talk about the tax cap,
So-
absolutely.
I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you.
Tom Murphy, Director of Finance.
First of all, I know she wants me to talk just a little bit more about that, and I'll do that in a second. But I just wanted to, number one, introduce myself to everyone here, because I don't know if I've had a chance to meet everyone, I'm sure I've not. But I've been very impressed with this district. This district is phenomenal. The students, the staff, community members, everyone has been very warm, very welcoming. I'll give you an example, and I told them this on my interview. When I came here, I wanted to be prepared for my interview, get ready and all this. So I went to Tim Hortons first just to use the bathroom, make sure that I was presentable for the interview. Some student opened the door for me, and I'm like, okay, all right, that's very nice of you, thank you. I come here where the interview was, another student opens the door for me. Now, my previous district, when it happened, but now I'm thinking, okay, am I getting older and they're trying to tell me something? But no, I mean, that actually has just been the case with the students here. They are great students, and it was just a nice, pleasant experience coming in. And then these guys and the interview, it has just been a very nice welcoming, so thank you all for that. I do appreciate it. Also, this year's budget process has been very smooth, and we have had a lot of change. No doubt, everybody here, I have heard much about it, I've not seen it, well remembers last year, and I know last year was a very contentious budget year. So this year, again, when they interviewed me, they said one of the things that you had done in another district has been part of what's called the budget advisory team. This is something that we value here in this community. We wanted openness within the district. We want to let people know what goes into a budget. There are a lot of moving pieces in a $25.7 million budget. And the budget advisory team is doing a wonderful job. We don't have enough time for it. There's too much information in it. That's a given. But it is not meant to be understand every piece in year 1. And what I said to the budget advisory team members is, I hope to see you guys here year after year. In a previous district, I will tell you that some of the budget advisory team members were there for 10 years. And every year, they become a little bit more educated, love the process, and I'm hoping that we continue to grow. But so far, it's been actually, hopefully, you guys consider very good as well. But the other thing with the budget process that also I'm very impressed with, and I've asked this group of people right here to sit here, and they kind of look like a firing squad, so, you know, please do not take it that way, but I deliberately asked for them to sit here as a group. And the reason why is they are a group. Lucinda as well, the superintendent. What we've done with the budget so far this year in planning and preparing for this budget has been in group format. We sit around in meetings to say, okay, what are the student needs? What is the staffing look like? What can we do without? What if we could? What do we need to move the district forward? We are going to have a budget gap, just like almost every other school district, especially when you see things like this. And this group has been phenomenal in working together. It's not, and what happens in many other districts is you will see administrators meet with the superintendent and director of finance and say, okay, I would like to get this, can I cut this deal? Not one person here has done this. Everybody has said everything's up for fair game. And when we're looking for more money to come back to the budget advisory team, to come back to the board, these guys right here are saying, okay, what can we do? So as we go through, I know this format is for you guys to voice your opinions, and everyone's going to have a chance. It's not necessarily to put these guys on the spot, because it's more the what your ideas are and what we can do to make the budget better. But I really felt it was important that you see this group of people. I've been very impressed to work with, so thank you. I appreciate it. Talk about this a little bit. She had mentioned, she showed you the figure on the previous slide. Can you go back to the previous slide, which is even really the heart of the matter. $7 million we have lost as a district. $7 million is made up somewhere else. Our budget has grown at a very modest pace because the state government has said as a whole, and we're all taxpayers, we can all appreciate this from a taxpayer perspective. None of us want our taxes to rise. Every one of us. We are the highest tax state in the nation. So from that perspective, it's great. However, I'm sure every one of you is here because you believe in the education system and want the best for the kids. And this loss right here really impacts what we're able to do. And the fact that we're not able to increase the tax levy as much as we have been in the past. So it's a double-edged sword. It keeps our taxes down, but it also hinders what we're able to do for the kids. So that $7 million really has been felt here in this community. A lot of projects that would have been done have not been done. And if you go to the next slide, this figure here, the $1.1 million, as she mentioned, the governor had said that we're going to give money back to districts. Our state fiscal position's a little bit better than what it has been in the past. So out of our benevolence, we're going to give it back to districts. And I've said this to the board, I'm going to say it to everyone here. Sometimes what you hear from me will be my own personal conservative comments. That benevolence right there is a very good public relations promotion on the part of the state. And again, my personal perspective, because that give back that they're talking about, we would have been at about 1.25 million of what we lost. So they gave back to us. They didn't give back to us. They're just not taking away as much. They're still taking away. They're taking away $1 million. So we're not getting anything back. There's no new money coming from the state for this. They're just not taking as much away. Okay? Okay. But she asked that I talk about that, but I want to talk a little bit about the tax cap. Okay, just to show of hands, how many people have heard about the 2% tax cap? Okay, most everybody here. How many people know that 2% doesn't mean 2%? Raise your hands. Okay. Most hands that were up the first time, which is very good for this community. I applaud you. A lot of communities don't know that. Again, as part of the state government, I think what they've done very well from a PR perspective is to drill into people's minds 2%. Now what happens with that is as communities hear 2%, it's kind of like the dog, wagging the tail, or the cart before the horse, which is driving which. The state government puts out 2%. Most communities want to be at 2%, even if they can go over, and I'll explain that in a minute. So even if communities are able to go above 2%, and most are, they don't, because the governor has done such a great job of drilling 2% into people's minds that every district last year who wanted to go over the tax cap, their budgets failed here locally. Because again, in people's minds, that has been very well established at 2%. But 2%, as I said, isn't 2%. Because what happens is when they enacted this legislation, they said, oh, but we realize that you have some other expenses that rise at such a high rate. You can deduct some of those expenditures. So for instance, the pension system, if it increases over a certain percentage, 2%, you can deduct the difference. There are other exclusions as well. And then when you look at that, your 2% now could be 2.99, it could be in some cases 7%, it's not always 2. But what ends up happening is when taxpayers go out and they see that we're asking, and we're not asking for this, I'm just explaining, when they see 3%, 5%, 7%, they step back and say, wait a minute, we were told 2. What are you doing? In which case, all we're doing is exactly what the governor laid out, but again, it wasn't exactly what he stated publicly. So I just wanted to at least point that out. So again, 2% is what they put out last year. That's like saying for everybody here, you will never get more than a 2% raise. You will never have more than 2% come in your house. Well, the state government said this year, you know what, 2% is too much. It's too high. So this year, we're cutting back to 1.46%. They tied it to the consumer price index, but this year it's a 1.46 plus exclusions. So 1.46 is not a big percentage increase when you're looking at the budget. Now, I need to point something out. The tax cap is on what taxpayers pay. Our budget for this district is $25.7 million. Our taxpayers pay $13 million. It's a lot of money. But for $13 million, what we'll talk about when we talk about tax cap, we can ask you to increase the budget starting with 1.46% higher than that $13 million. Not of the $25.7 million. It's of the taxpayer dollars. So that's the first thing to know. Okay, so what you see here first, prior year's tax levy. Tax levy is simply what taxpayers pay. So that's what you guys are paying this year for our budget of $25.72 million. The rest of it's funded by state aid, other revenues we come in. As Ms. Johnson will tell you that with Medicaid and other, she has money coming in. As Ms. Falacaro told us, she's now bringing money in as well. All other funding sources that we have for the district to actually come in make up the difference of the $25 million. But we start with that $13 million. As I said, the state has outlined for us exactly what we can exclude from the tax cap. And we don't have a lot of different exclusions here in this district. So for instance, when you see the prior year tax levy, the state says, well, you know what, based on your demographics, and every city, town, village has a different demographic, you have a growth factor that you can multiply that with. That's how much we're allowing you to go with. Ours is pretty flat. It's almost at 1. It's almost a non-growth factor, quite honestly, but it's 1.0031. So now we're at $13,085,000. As I said, not a big increase, but there you go. Then what we can do is we can add any pilot receivables. What a pilot is it's a payment in lieu of taxes. So if there's a business that comes into town, for example, and they're not paying taxes for 10 years, they'll make an arrangement with the state to be tax-free, but what they'll do is they will say for those 10 years, we will offer to pay the school districts, actually not offer, it's in lieu of paying tax, payments in lieu of taxes, at X dollar amount. We don't have any. So we don't have to worry about any exclusions from the pilots, we just don't have any. You can go forward. Minuses, taxes levied for exemptions during the prior year, we just don't have any of that. Minus court-ordered judgments, allowable exemptions for pension increases, capital local expenditures, I said that is 0, but that's what the exemptions are, all those what are in parentheses right there. So again, now that is our adjusted prior tax levy. In essence, it basically was our 13.04 times the growth factor they gave us. So that's what we're starting with. So go ahead. Now, from that, you can multiply by 1.46%. That gets us to what our tax levy can be for this coming year. So what we're looking at right now, potentially in this budget process, to ask from taxpayers to go from 13.04 to 13.276. That would be the growth factor right there. So if you keep going, that figure comes out to be 1.78. So it's really not 1.46, it's 1.78. So that is the tax cap difference. So when you see the 1.46, which he's putting out there now, it really is different for every district. Some districts are at 7, some are at 9. I was with a group of business officials today. We meet every month to go over, well, right now, knee deep in the budget with us, so we're all comparing. Some districts are able to go up to 9 or 10%. most have said we are not even thinking of going over the 2%. Just because that PR image is out there, and any district that, you know, is really going to what they can, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because, again, with the PR machine. So, the maximum levy right there that you're seeing right at this point is 13,276, unless we're able to find any additional exclusions, but right now, that's what you're actually looking at. So, in that backdrop, we just want to give you a sense of the taxpayer portion right there before you guys come up. It is very important to hear from every one of you. I mean, because as we build this budget, we're doing the best job. This group is doing the best job they can. The board is doing the best job they can. But as we said when we formed the budget advisory team, one of the ground rules with the budget advisory team, they've been great about this, is coming up with positive, constructive feedback as to how we can improve the budget, what we can do, help us with ideas we haven't thought of before. So what we're asking from everyone here, everyone has a 2-minute limit. Everyone will have a chance to speak who wants to speak. But give us your ideas. Let us know what you're thinking, because it really helps all of us.
So, Mr. Murphy, I could just break in for
Sure.
one moment. So, there are some definitions, we know you can't see them, it might not necessarily even want to be that you read them, but we will put this up on our website within the next couple of days, as long as it's not too big. But for purposes of that, I think if you go to the next slide, you'll see some of the pieces that Mr. Murphy talked about are here, just so that you can see what those are.
We use a lot of jargon in education, and not everything is easily explained, so we put this out there. So, okay. So with that, I unfortunately will be the timekeeper. Part of what I was doing during the budget advisory team is finding my phone with the timer. It's a new phone, so I will be counting down everybody. So I think we'll hear it as the 2 minutes passes. So do we want just whoever wants to come up first? Okay. The floor is yours. One at a time. Yep. So if you have people line up, that'd be great.
I sprung this 2-minute thing out.
We want to be fair for everyone and give everyone a chance.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I am Chris Archibald. I am a parent, teacher, coach in this district, and I am here on behalf of Beating the Cross. With me tonight is Jack Cudahy, Molly Newrider, and Chelsea. If you would have came up, we would have 8 minutes.
Not per group.
So I didn't have anything formally prepared to say tonight, so I just listening to your setup for this. When Mrs. Anzalone was speaking, she talked about looking at a budget and looking to create change and growth, and what we're here to speak about would create change and growth, we think, a modified program that would be absorbed into the actual school budget. We've had a modified, this is not a new team. This is an existing team that has been funded by fundraising on behalf of the parents for the last, I don't know, 6, 7 years. It's a blur now, how long we've been doing this. So it's an established team with a group of players that come back, and we keep fielding a team, so it's not going to struggle, I don't think, to continue to have strength. You also talked, Mrs. Anzalone, about future generations. I have 4 that are in this district right now, and if they love their father, they will play lacrosse. So those are my 2 quick things. I just think it's a lot of bang for your buck. It's not a super expensive thing for an athletic budget or a school budget to absorb. When parents fundraise for it, it's Herculean effort every year to continue to do that. But for a school budget, with all the opportunity that provides for the young men and young women, it's a modified boys and girls program that we're representing.
Lacrosse specifically for a talk.
Correct.
It's modified girls, modified boys.
Correct.
Jack Cudahy, also lead resident of 3 children in the school district, 1 about to graduate, and I'm also president of the Eden All Sports Booster Club, so another hat I wear. Here specifically to talk about lacrosse, as Coach mentioned, the modified program has not been funded for 6 or 7 years. It's a tremendous, tremendous effort to ask the parents to raise the 10,000.
Started. Sorry, go ahead.
All right. If I get started over. It's a tremendous effort to try and raise that $10,000, and to keep in mind it's $10,000 that no other program has to raise, and it's $10,000 we have to raise before we get to do anything, uniforms or equipment or travel or whatever. I would also like to add, on behalf of the boosters, it's not as though, when you add this to the budget, that we're gonna just say, throw our hands up and say, okay, good, we're done. We're gonna continue to raise that $10,000. The money's just gonna go for other things, for all the kids. Not only in lacrosse, but in some of the other programs. So as lacrosse's need is reduced, we're able to take those fundraising efforts and spread them amongst some of the other programs. And so respectfully, we ask again, please put it in the budget like every other modified program. And on behalf of the boosters, we'll raise money that will go towards scoreboards and sound systems and uniforms, or whatever else needs to be done.
Jack, just for clarification, when the modified girls and boys team came on as a new team is when the boosters started to fund it?
Chris could lend some history to that, but my understanding is that first we had a varsity team and that was quite successful. That became part of the budget. Then the JV team was fundraised for, and that became part of the budget after they were successful. And then we had so much interest that we added the modified Boys and Girls Club, and we're still having terrific numbers there. Unfortunately, that was 6 or 7 or however many years ago, and
Right
that
about
was
the same time the GEA started, probably.
and that was never added to the budget. And so since then, we've been forced to fundraise through the boosters.
So the program started through the funding of the sports boosters?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
Now, with the modified lacrosse itself, both boy and girl, do they play the same teams that the JV and the varsity would? Or is it different as far as?
They, sometimes no. The modified programs play locally, so they would play, regardless of school size, they're gonna play Orchard Park, Hamburg, West Seneca, the closer schools, they do it geographically. The JV and varsity play by school size, so they travel a lot more, so if the modified is reduced because the busing is less.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a local league that they play.
Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Jessica Kleinschmidt. I'm the varsity coach for Eden cheerleading for football and basketball season. The past 3 years, I have also been taking on the responsibility of coaching the JV team during football season because that was cut from the budget. So I take on the responsibility of keeping our JV program going without the support from a paid position for that, for those girls. So our hopes is that the budget will reinstate that JV coaching position, so I no longer have to take on both coaching responsibilities. Our busing was cut for away games, so the JV teams, for basketball season, JV and varsity cheerleaders no longer travel to away games, so that bus was eliminated. That was a savings that we, not willingly, but had to give up, and whatever, we dealt with that. The JV team, to make up for teams that they weren't going away for anymore, started going to modified games for basketball and football seasons because JV doesn't travel at all because technically they're not really a team because they don't have a coach besides myself. So we did make up by attending 3 modified games on top of the 4 JV home games that we had for football season last year. I can say that the difference between our football team and our basketball team was huge. I got a coach, it took a lot of the responsibility off of me and having to deal with 2 teams at the same time. And for our ECIC's competition, our team increased their score 20 points. That's because they have the extra attention and the time and efforts they need in order to be successful. Cheerleading is an extremely high-risk sport. Ms. Carl can attest to that. This past football season, unfortunately, I've had more injuries than I've ever had before, and I hate to say it, but I think a lot of it has to do with 1 person and 40 girls. So, but my time's up, but consider us and think about us as we make the budget.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jessica.
It's fun getting up and speaking, isn't it?
Just didn't mention they went up 40 points. They also were ECIC champions.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, my daughter's on the team. No, mine too. My name is Nancy Kester, and I'm a parent in the district.
Van Moser, Harms, Feldman, Rich, Bly, Eckert, Bergstaller, Steichslater, Karstedt. What do these names have in common? They're the last names of families in this community, in this town. They are the names of students in this building. What else do they have in common? They're all of German origin. The most widely spoken language in the European Union is German. While 51% of the adults in the EU understand English and all 24 languages are recognized, in practice only 3 are used regularly: English, French, and German. I understand the desire to prepare our students for a global economy and that Mandarin is the most commonly used language in international business. But not everyone in Eden is going into international business. And if they are, they have 4 years of college to learn another language. The German heritage will never go away. Of my 6 children, 4 chose to take German. In fact, I've had at least 1 child taking German every year since 1999. Why did they take it? Maybe they did it to help me read headstones or family records written over 100 years ago. Maybe learning about their own heritage instead of always learning about someone else was important to them. 2 of my children have traveled to Germany with Mrs. Crimmett, and a 3rd will go in June. They learn about the world as they learn about themselves. Heritage is so important. Please don't take this opportunity away. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name's Lisa Winter, and I am here to speak on behalf of the languages also, and Mrs. Nestor said it about all. I have 2 children. My youngest is graduating this year. Both of them have taken German as a language. It is part of our heritage. My son is a junior at Canisius College. He's a history and political science major and is learning a lot about European history and relations as it affects our country. If he can squeeze in a 3rd major, he would like to study abroad in Germany. It's not a place that's going away. It still is a very important part of, you know, everything. There's German students that attend Canisius, quite a large number of them. There's a sister school over there, and it's not something that's just disappearing. And then I also want to say thank you for mentioning the tax cap. I work for the town, I'm very familiar with it.
Absolutely.
And it's really probably going to get worse with what the governor now is proposing. So people need to be aware of it, and it all sounds good from his standpoint, but it's really going to hurt, I believe, schools and towns a lot.
And I'm going to piggyback for a second on what you talked about. One of the proposals that you may have either read about or heard about on the news, which is one of his proposals, is to possibly say, could we have a taxpayer credit if school districts meet certain guidelines? So it's not been adopted, but what he's saying basically is between now and 2017, if the tax levy was to go down by 1%, so you'd have to freeze this year, you'd have to consult, I guess I'm done. You have to freeze this year. You have to consolidate services with other districts, or consolidate in some way, shape, or form, but by 2017, your levy actually has to be lower. And it sounds great, but it is just not realistic at all, in my opinion, again.
I agree.
Just because when you're looking at contracts and healthcare increases, when you're looking sometimes this year, we won't have it, but if some year double digits, it would be almost virtually impossible.
And that's true for
to be low.
municipalities too.
It is, and a lot of the expenses are mandated expenses. There's no choice in what goes into the retirement system. You're given a number, and it's way over
It is, so,
But I'm glad you're educating, and I hope that,
That's
you
part of
know,
our
it
job.
continues, because the public is kind
it's
of-
your budget, you guys are paying for it,
Right.
you have every right to know about it.
Thank you, Mrs. Owen.
Thank you.
So, and there's extras for anyone else you wanna share it with. There's 20 there. My name is Karen Hall. I am a parent of 2 children in the school district, 3rd and 6th grade. And at this point, I really don't understand what's happening, what's going on with the budget, what the changes that will be taking place. So I would like to just share with you some of the things that I have spoken publicly and addressed at meetings in the last couple of years. I've gotten more involved over the last couple of years. And so those 3 things, first of all, classroom size for students K through 6. I thank you for addressing this. My daughter, who is now in 3rd grade, was in a class 2nd grade last year with 4 teachers and is in 3rd grade with 5. And I want to thank you for making that a priority, and I hope that will continue even as possible retirements may occur. I hope we do continue to really look at and keep classroom size down. The other second thing is a strong music program in Eden. This is an unmandated program, and it runs a risk of being cut. I would like to see it continue as a vital part of the quality education provided here in Eden, especially for K through 6, as it serves kind of like a feeder program for the high school program, music program. And I do believe there are opportunities to engage the community when it comes to music. I think there are some definite opportunities for reaching out and pulling people in and talking music and supporting that program. Also, support for the REACH program. This is also runs a risk of being cut and not being unmandated. And students at all academic levels have needs. And I mean all levels, from those that need RTI all the way. Can't do it, Barb, I can't do it.
Keep talking.
So really addressing the needs of all students at all academic levels, and one way of doing that is through a REACH program. And then just a couple of quick comments. Please continue to explore opportunities to engage the community. I think I heard you say, you know, you're looking for placement.
Yeah.
I'm happy to help anything in any way that I can in that, and reaching out, doing outreach.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We're prepared to go anywhere.
All right. I would also like to encourage the board and the budget advisory team to look at and understand where the cuts trickle down, because I know we rely on staff and administration to really figure out what happens, but what seems clear cut may not end up looking the same when it comes, when it actually happens. So making sure everyone understands that and questions that as it happens. And also,
Something in mind?
well, I'm
Is there
sorry.
something in mind when you talk about the trickle down?
Well, you know, I'm not sure I can speak exactly, but like for music, I'm not sure if the music,
I'd reset the timer.
Music in Our Lives, if that program is still offered, but what ended up happening was the string program at the elementary level was, the person in that position was cut, her time was
Understood.
cut. So
Okay.
that's what I'm talking about.
Understood.
Here it happened and it ended up trickling down. So the other thing is, thank you so much for all the information about the budget and explaining things to us. I feel I am pleased to see those kinds of charts and all those, for that information available. And I also like that I feel comfortable enough that I could ask. If I had other additional questions, I could come to you and ask those. So, thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, my name is Pat Profick. A lot of my ideas that I've written down, I don't have to talk about anymore, they've been mentioned. But one thing I wanted to talk about with the budget is, my first thought is always how much will the taxes go up? And to remind everybody that maybe it's a $50 increase this year, but that's also included in every single budget down the line, and on and on and on. I spoke with a woman today
who moved into her house in 2002, and her taxes, just for the school portion, have gone up $1,100 in that time. So it is significant, even though it may be a small, it's a cap now, it's a little different, it's still building on top of previous increases. I talked at the last board meeting about workbooks that weren't used, that shouldn't have been purchased. One thing, if we could control spending, even in small little areas, across a lot of departments, a lot of areas, that can help. And we need to teach our children about living within our means. And there was a lot of drama in May, some of you weren't here for it, and that there was a lot of, we can't cut this, we can't cut that. I hate that the kids are kind of almost used as pawns to make it more emotional, and they're not paying the tax bills, they don't know, and that kind of drives me crazy. But one thing that everything brought up tonight made me think of, at the Meet the Candidate night last year, Mr. Shepherd talked about, I asked him how would he handle the deficit that's coming, because there's health insurance and everything is going up. And he said, more business in town. Has anybody ever thought about inviting Mr. Nellis to these board meetings and the council members? And I know we're a right to farm community, but if there were more businesses in this town, that would help the tax base. And it would also give our kids someplace to work. That we don't have to drive them to Hamburg, we don't have to spend the gas to go back and forth, and it would help share the load.
On that note, can I say something? We have a very, very strong farm and land conservancy.
I know.
In this community, that's huge.
I know, but it would help. We want to be innovative. I'm not saying put McDonald's on Shinsis. I'm not saying that. But it might work when you're on your way to Corsica. But one or two more businesses in town would certainly help to share the load.
And furthermore, I'm gonna step on it. I'm gonna step in it tonight. Our building inspector has not helped this community.
Oh, yeah.
One bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Nellis really likes him.
Yeah.
So I'm done.
Yeah, I agree, but
So I
maybe
stepped in it.
if they were here, if Mr. Ventry was here, and I don't even know who everybody else is at the moment off the top of my head, but if they were here, maybe they would have some ideas too. So maybe that's something that, well, maybe Mr. Ventry would have some ideas that Mr. Nellis won't be able to come up with. I don't know, but just an idea of finding a way to share the load. Thanks. Is my time begun?
It's voice activated? My name is Paula Blandino. I'm a parent of 2 children at the elementary school. And my proposal is for the McDonald's on Shinsis 3 building.
Humor, that's all. We'll research
And actually, Mrs. Angela, when you were introducing the evening a bit, you had said for us to sort of think about what education looks like for each of us. To me, and I hope to my children, it looks like skill building and challenge. And that brings up 2 of my concerns, actually, that have surfaced. One that has surfaced this year, and the lack of library time at the elementary school.
What was the first one?
Lack of library
No,
time.
before that.
Skill building and challenge. Love of reading, research, books, all fostered through library time. My daughter is a 6th grader. It's now end of February. Her class has been to the library twice. It's a really vital part of school, and for children to build this love of learning and books and reading. But how can they do that when they have no library time? I would urge this change to occur this year. The time is running out for an entire class of kids this year and not having any sort of library time. From what I understand, library time is spent in the classroom doing homework because there's no one to attend the library at that time or to manage the library at that time. So one of my concerns. Another of my concerns is challenge, and there's an entire population of students that need to be challenged on a regular basis, or if they lose interest, they could fall between the cracks. these are students who need to be engaged, need to be educated effectively, and these are REACH students. This year they've done wonderful things with practicing their organizational skills and sort of project management. They've instituted a program called Page by Page at the elementary school, where they're encouraging students throughout the school to submit book reviews. So once a child has read a book, they can submit a book review. That review is read on the announcement. So what a great way for kids to be excited about reading. So my support is for these two programs that are, library should be a given, I would think. REACH seems to be on the chopping block, and just hopefully that we won't forget this population of students that needs that challenge on a daily basis. Thank you.
Perfect.
Great.
My name is John Morrow. I have 2 students graduate, and I have a 3rd graduating in about 3 months, hopefully. And this might surprise some people, but I'm a big proponent of education, but I want the board or the budget advisory people to think of more meat and potatoes of what we're here for, appropriate education for kids. And I get a little concerned with the parochial interests. We get spread out almost too wide. We get to be a mile wide and an inch thick. And that to me is a danger to the kids. I would much rather do fewer things better than many things, I think the appropriate words, not well. So that's my biggest concern. The school, the public schools, for appropriate education for the kids. And when you make the decisions on that very small portion of the budget that is discretionary spending, I think you have to put it towards meat and potatoes. But I do think that there's places that the union the teachers union might be able to negotiate with you over quality of life issues. You know, not every teacher has to be here at a certain time. They don't all have homerooms. So if it is of interest to some teachers, they might be willing to come in late. That means they can stay later to do a duty in the evening or after school, whether it's helping kids with homework or a club advisor, something like that. There's things like that that can help kids at no cost. There's lots of things that we can do outside of a program defined, in the school, mandated, or whatever you want to call it, in the budget line. There's lots of things that you can do outside of the meat and potatoes. As I said, I'd rather do a few things very well than many things not very well. That finally gets it. Thank you.
I'm Molly Newrunner, like Coach said, and I just kind of wanted to give you a student's perspective of the lacrosse program. I've been playing lacrosse since I was 5 years old. I'm 18 now. I'm a senior here at Eden. I've been on varsity since 8th grade, and I mean, it's really been just a huge impact in my life. I got offered a scholarship to play in lacrosse, or to play in college, and so, thanks. And so, I mean, I'm very excited about that, and lacrosse is the fastest growing sport around. There's really no doubt in my mind that it is. And just recently over break, we've had a clinic for younger girls. And the response we got from the community was amazing. Like, we had so many girls come, they were excited to learn. Like, there were younger girls from the GLP and elementary, and it was just really great to see, especially as a senior. And also this year we have had the most, I think, freshmen sign up that we've ever had. So it's a growing sport, there's interest in the community, and just wanted you guys to know that.
Thank you. Molly also sits on the board as a student rep, so if she looks familiar, that's why.
She's also a cheerleader.
She also cheerleads.
And she's good at math.
Just saying.
Tom, you need help?
Sure, come on down. Okay, anyone else? We want to make sure everybody has a chance to be heard.
I have one that was dropped off today that I'd like to read.
Hi, I'm Elaine Plantonio. I have 2 children in the district. Elaine Plantonio. I didn't come prepared to speak, but I think I need to. I have 2 children in the district. I have a 3rd grader. I agree with what Karen Hall said, everything she said. I'm grateful that the class size was reduced and a teacher was added for the 3rd grade. It made a big difference. My son struggles in school to pay attention and focus, so for him, I'm especially grateful. I've also been very grateful for the REACH program throughout the years. My daughter, Caitlin Pantonio, is gifted, and she's also benefiting from the advanced placement classes. I hope in the future the advanced placement classes and college level courses will continue to be offered, because as she is in the top of her 7th and 8th grade, she was top 5 for the first quarter. I know she'll benefit from having these college level classes, and I know there's many other students who will benefit from that. And it's going to really help us as a family and many others down the line when it comes time to apply for colleges. Hopefully she'll get a scholarship. And in that, the music program is beneficial for her and many other families in Eden, because it challenges them to learn an instrument. I never took an instrument, I'm not musical, and my parents couldn't afford to even give me piano lessons. I gave her 1-year lessons, so just for piano it's too expensive. But to have that orchestra, and she's tried Everett County, that's an additional thing for her to work for. But she's always needed these challenges. Since 1st grade, she's needed more. I almost wished I'd skipped a grade at that time, but I didn't, because they said, well, there's the gifted programs, which in 2nd grade they had for her. I was grateful for that, but then that was cut. And in REACH, my son in 3rd grade goes to REACH as well as the whole group. Now, he's not necessarily gifted, but he did benefit from that project thing that he had to write the group review, which was a big challenge for him, because he is struggling in Elang to get the main idea. I had to sit and help him. When he had to write the review, he picked out details from the story. He really had no idea what to do, and I was able to help him. And he won. He won a certificate for Barnes & Noble. So that's going to motivate him to read more and to try to write these reviews and get the main idea, which is really what the Common Core is about. It's about getting the gist, which is a big challenge for him and many others. But thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sue Schnaufer. I am a parent, first, of 5 students, 2 who have graduated, 1 who is going to graduate, and 2 2nd graders. Also a teacher here in the district. But my concern is, what I'd like to speak to you about is the program at the high school as far as getting college credits. I have a daughter who graduated, who came out of here with 12 college credits. She saved an entire semester of college tuition. My daughter, who is going to graduate, also is coming out with 12 college credits, saving an entire semester of tuition. I would really, really, really like to encourage the board to support more college credit earning opportunities at the high school. This was a big year of transition, we know that. My daughter is taking late arrival this semester and has 3 study halls. And boy, I would have really loved to pay $200 to ECC to see her have another opportunity to take another college level class. So she could have 15 credit hours running out of here. So that's something I think is extremely important. It's a huge money saver for parents. When you can pay ECC $200 or Niagara University $180 or take a CLEP exam or take an advanced placement exam for $80-some. That's something that I really, 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 following up on Mrs. Pantano, feel that we need to address and support more here in our community, because money is tight. Kids are coming out of college with $100,000 in debt. And if we can save a parent a huge chunk of money by giving them, giving the students as many college credits leaving as we can, and challenging those upper level kids with the community faculty that we have, that would be a great, great opportunity.
Was there any particular course that she wanted to take?
There was a course, Joanne Ramakers was going to teach, I believe it was an intro to business class. Unfortunately, ECC pulled that on us at the last minute. There are other courses, accounting, website design that could be taught through ECC, just in the business department. In other departments, if we can get faculty encouraged to go in and get the certifications, there are many courses in many departments at ECC alone that I know could be taught in the high school. I'm not sure about Niagara University or some of the other partner colleges, just think that's something that we really have to explore more and be able to give these children the opportunity, especially in their senior year, when many students who have followed the letter of the law all the way through have completed all their graduation requirements sometimes by January. You know, let's give them the challenge and let them earn some college credits. And they might be thinking outside the box. It may be online courses through the university that can be taken. It may be getting more faculty certified to teach through the colleges. There are lots of ways that we can encourage this and get these students, instead of sitting in a study hall, taking early release or late arrival, to be earning something to go on that they're really going to be proud of.
Does that include AP for you as well?
I had children take AP classes. My son earned 4 college credits in calculus taking an AP class. I think that test cost me $80. 4 college credits is probably, you know, a lot bigger chunk of money than that, depending on the college you go to. So, yeah, and CLEP is the other thing. We can be taking CLEP exams. Students can be challenging college courses by taking a CLEP exam and getting college credit that way. So there's lots of different opportunities out there.
Thank you.
Okay, and if you'd like help, I'd be more than happy to help with you.
I wrote notes too.
Anyone else? Yep, please don't, no. Insurance.
I won't sue.
Kitty.
My name is Jen Horschel. I am a parent in the district. I am a member of the budget advisory team, as well as the Eden PTA, where I am currently serving as the parent advocacy. I don't know what my title is really. Anyway, neither here nor there. I had no intention of speaking tonight. However, if some of you remember the meetings last year, I spoke, sometimes cried. But I wanted to address some of the things that I heard some of the community members talking about, because I think there are valid points to be made. I think, first of all, no matter what side of this education debate you fall on, which there really should be no debate, I understand the need to not want your taxes to go any higher, but you have to, as community members, look at not only the bigger picture, but with all due respect, the smoke and mirrors that's being put forth by the state. We're pulling funding from children, but we're thinking about giving funding to prisoners to educate them, which to me is mind-numbing. If you want to reduce the recidivism rates, educate your children appropriately now so they don't wind up in prison. That's just one thing. I have written town board members asking for help, and I think it's a phenomenal idea. And while I don't want a McDonald's entrances, you drive down Main Street.
That's the one thing that'll leave the meeting.
When you drive up and down Main Street, there are empty buildings or buildings with for sale or lease signs in front of them. Those should be filled. There should be something in there. You go down by the bowling alley and it's quite frankly scary. Like, what is in there? I don't know. It's a little nerve-wracking. I was not really, my requests for assistance and help, and I invited them to come to school board meetings, was not really well received. And I was basically told that it's the school district's issue and not a town issue, which does not make any sense to me now. There is no town without a school. I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way. So my hope, my concern, my desire would be, if you have concerns, write your, sorry, let me just keep talking. Write your town board members, write your local politicians. As I said, I do serve as the parent advocacy chair, something, I don't know. Contact me though. I have been writing people. I think there is power in numbers. We will be heard if we do decide to all work together. Our taxes don't have to be so high. I think there's a lot the state can be doing to support schools. If you sat through the budget advisory team meeting today, you heard the constant unfunded mandate, unfunded mandate. I really truly feel that the state's goal is to push districts to the point of almost extinction. I don't understand how districts are going to be able to keep on going with the current system in place. It's impossible. You can't, it's not gonna happen, and I don't wanna, there's one more thing I wanted to say. Oh, and just, I think as a whole, I would like to say, I think the board really does understand, to an extent, the trickle-down effect of what happens when we cut positions. But that's where the state is pushing it. When you work in a school district, the bulk of your budget is salary, because that's what keeps the school going. There's no product to sell and make money and balance the budget. That's how it is. That is where the state has pushed, not just this school district, every school district. For the sake of transparency, I work in a neighboring school district. We are looking at an almost $5 million budget gap. Where is that going to come? You can't make it happen unless you cut teachers, and that's just not what's in the best interest of our kids. So, at the next community forum, which is on a
Community forum is March 15th at Saturday at
It's at
10
10
a.m.
a.m.
We'll be in the cafeteria.
I will have, because I know it gets a little intimidating trying to find out who exactly is your local politicians for the particular district that you live in. I will have lists. If you're interested, please come see me. I encourage everyone to write, and I encourage the board. And I know you guys have, but I think if we work collaboratively and let our voice be heard, things will change for everyone for the better. So I didn't cry. March 10th. 15th, sorry, at 10 a.m.
Thank you. Jen, did the town ever get back to you?
Oh, they did. Yeah, not really.
Can you say who you wrote a letter to?
I can pull up I wrote the entire board. I CC'd them all. I got 2 responses. One just said, we are, what did you write to farm community, we're not encouraging. And I said, I don't want it to look like Main Street in Williamsville. That's not what I'm asking, but you have vacant buildings. What are you planning on doing? And a gentleman responded, I won't throw him under the bus here in front of everybody, but said that it's a district issue and it has no impact on the town, which just shows his ignorance, but
Thank you.
thank you.
Now, I know the superintendent is going to read one letter in respect of everyone's time here. Has everyone had a chance to speak, everyone who wanted to? Okay. And once you're done, I'll just follow up with the...
I'm not sure I can do this in 2 minutes, but I'm
Well,
gonna
you're a
try.
superintendent, so...
Oh,
okay.
see? This is from Joe and Kristen Winicki, who apologize for not being here tonight, but they promised to be here at the next one. It was written directly to me, but it really is to the board as well. I'm writing you because unfortunately, Kristen and I are unable to attend the community forum this evening. I feel it is important to let you know that we appreciate the opportunity to be involved and informed with the process of developing the Eden Central School District budget. And you don't have to write all this part because I will just give it to you. Something else I have for you tomorrow, don't worry. And it has been stated in the past, developing and approving a budget is no easy task, as districts are held to a tax cap and the GEA. While there are very few easy answers and even fewer one-size-fits-all solutions, we believe that an informed public that can have open discussions can build a solid educational foundation for the children in our community. With that being said, we understand that the district wishes to hear from the community, and so this is a list of programs that our family feels are vital pieces of the educational puzzle in alphabetical order, not priority. And many of these programs are or have been victims of reductions or cuts in the past. We are hopeful that these programs will be maintained and or expanded as interest in enrollment changes. Advanced placement in the senior high school, honors in the junior high, art, athletics, foreign language, a reintroduction of German to incoming junior high students, music, instrumental, physical education, reach gifted and talented, enrichment, technology education, and pre-vocational training. We look forward to seeing you at the community forum in March, and if you need any information, don't hesitate to call us. And while I'm up at the mic, I wanted to thank Tom for trying so hard. Okay? I told him, I said, you're gonna have to work really hard at that one, but I wanna thank you for trying so hard with that one, because I know we wanted to try to get everybody out of here at a reasonable time. But I also wanted to thank you for speaking and for entertaining the questions that we had back to you. It was really, really important to the board and to Tom and the administrators and to me that you had this opportunity to talk and to answer and go into more depth of what some of your questions were. And I don't know if you remember, but I came in the middle of March last year, and there was a whole lot more laughing today, so that makes me feel a lot better. I appreciate that. So thank you. I hope that this was worthwhile to you. If you needed to say more, call. If you wanted to write something, email or send a letter or drop off a letter. And I hope that we do see you again in March. The format will be a little different in March, because hopefully by then we'll be at another stage with our budget that's not 900,000 over, and we can start to prioritize what we need to be doing for the next stage. So thank you. Thank you very much.